Good morning, everyone. Lots going on. As usual, today is Wednesday, October 15th, 2025. And we've got a new premier-elect in Newfoundland, conservative, Tory, I guess. So that's interesting. Pierre Poilievre, Danielle Smith are offering congratulations. And not a departure, not an unexpected departure from the Liberals who usually run the place, but we'll see how long that lasts. Ostrich farm updates with more property being seized. Don't know why, and I feel like the ostrich story is trying to be a distraction. There's lots of people covering it, and not that nothing new is happening, but it seems contrived to cover for Bills C9 and C8. I talked with John Carpe yesterday. He's still convinced that the world or that the government is able to listen to the people, and the people pushed back enough, and they got C2 split. They're going to reintroduce C2 as C12 without the snooping and the Canada Post being able to open letter mail and RCMP demanding to be able to see internet history or something like that without a warrant. Things like that. Maybe, but I still feel like, and the overall sentiment is we're in a rigged system. Our system is failing to work. And John Carpe and I talked about that a little bit, how the system is failing. The judicial system feels like it's rigged, so on and so forth. So it was an interesting conversation. I don't know, man. I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. I hope I'm wrong about that. Trump and canola oil, because canola oil is being it's all part and parcel of a trade dispute between Canada and China. Canada put tariffs on Chinese EVs so as not to flood the Canadian market with these Chinese EVs. And then China said, okay, well, we won't buy any of your canola oil. But now Trump's talking about bad practices from China with regards to canola oil. And he says, forget it. We're not even going to deal with them with regards to canola oil. So like there's a canola oil gate brewing right now. So I just wanted to read you in on all of that. And the government is advertising healthcare for immigrants. Come to Canada to be on a waiting list. It'll be the best waiting list you ever did get on. It's such a good idea. So there's lots to get to. Let's get to it. First, government waiting list. I mean, healthcare, also known as healthcare. Here's the IRCC. This is Immigrants and Refugees and Citizenship Canada. So they say, this is a X post from yesterday, October 13th, Thanksgiving, right? Thanksgiving Monday, right? Or not yesterday, Thanksgiving Monday, October 13th. So they're saying, hey, come to Canada, everybody. It says, thinking about moving to Canada? Did you know that Canada has public health care? Learn how it works, who can get it, and what services are covered. Get the details and helpful tips. And then they've got a link. I haven't followed the link, but wow, come to Canada. And they've got a picture of an elderly person. Come to Canada, you elderly person, to get some healthcare. Do you want some healthcare? Come and have some citizenship and healthcare. What? Dominion Society of Canada is responding to this. Our hospitals are overwhelmed. We don't need more foreigners taking advantage of our social systems. We need remigration or remigration. There's a lot of people who are pushing back on this. Melissa Lantsman, deputy leader of the Conservative Party, says, read the room, folks. Carney's government is advertising free healthcare to the world while 6.5 million Canadians can't see a doctor. ERs are closing, patients are dying, and Liberal Ottawa's answer is to brag about a broken system. Compassion without capacity is chaos. Is it compassion to pretend that you have this product to give people, and in reality you don't have this product to give people? Is that compassion? Oh yeah, come to Canada to have your healthcare taken care of, and then when you get here, you die on a wait list? Very compassionate, Canada. Holly, better to just say nothing. Better to just, healthcare would be great if you could access it. That's the part of the dinner party where you stay quiet, Canada. Holly Doan says Commons Health Committee votes unanimously to investigate the impact of immigration on Medicare. We don't really have Medicare, but Medicare is kind of the short term for taxpayer-funded healthcare like we have. It's not free healthcare. It's Medicare. It coincides with Immigration Canada's marketing campaign inviting newcomers. Did you know Canada has public health care? So this is a terrible initiative. They're spending money on these ads, right? Like this is actually a marketing campaign they're trying to use to what? Destroy our hospitals further? make the system completely fall to pieces. Michelle Rempel-Garner is responding to this as well, and she's responding to the IRCC's tweet with a CTV News headline, "How bad are wait times in Canada? Studies suggest millions still waiting for healthcare services." This was September 26, 2025. Less than a month ago, half a month ago. Have they fixed it since then? No. So come on down, everybody. You're the next contestant on will you get your medical thing looked at or will you die on a waiting list is right? Like this is terrible. Cedar Grove Weather Hub says Canadian healthcare, "We have no doctors to look at your sick little girl today. Please take her to a computer doctor." Canadian government says, "Hey, citizen of another country, did you know our healthcare is free? Why not bring your 200-year-old grandfather with you too?" They're not wrong. Here's Brockville General Hospital responding to somebody. It says, "We are experiencing high volumes in our emergency department. Our staff is working hard to provide the community with safe, quality healthcare. Here's how you can help. If you have non-urgent issues, consider alternatives to care. Alternatives to care like dying." Right? I mean, jeepers creepers. Alternatives to care instead of the emergency department, such as your primary care provider or local pharmacy. If you're considering the ER, maybe you don't have a primary care doctor, right? Like I questioned the COVID stuff and my primary care doctor first yelled at me, told me that I didn't qualify for an exemption. I didn't ask for an exemption and she hung up on me and I was like, weirdo. So I didn't have a primary care doctor, right? I don't go to doctors very often. You could go to, there's other places, use Health 811, visit Brockville General Hospital Right Care to find out where to get the right care. It certainly isn't Brockville General Hospital. Go anywhere else, please. So this is insane. This is absolutely certifiably insane. Why are we doing this? Here's Cosman, and he's highlighting this headline from April 16th, 2018. Oh, those were heady days back in 2018 where I could clearly see a problem, but nobody else wanted to hear about it. Anyway, the headline is "Liberals loosen rules that exclude immigrants on medical grounds. Immigration Minister Ahmed Hassan said policy is out of line with Canadian values." Canadian values like good value for money and removing people from eligibility who may be a strain on our system. Yeah, those Canadian values, get them gone. Those stupid Canadian values. Cosman says in 2018, the Liberals gutted medical immigration inadmissibility safeguards, allowing entry to those with conditions costing 3 times the average Canadian's annual healthcare expenses. Now they're shamelessly peddling our hospitals to the world's 304 million migrants. Come to Canada for the healthcare, stay for the 10th city, right? Like, whew, love it. Love it. This is our government, everyone. And shameless. It's absolutely shameless. They are not hiding it. Hiding it's not the right word. They're not sad about the damage they've caused. In fact, they're trying to cause more damage, it seems to me. Here's Mark Carney. He says, "We're building this country, creating new opportunities for workers." CBC News. Now, this is a pattern, and I was waiting for the third one. I tried to find the third one. He says, Canada's economy added 60,000 jobs in September. And then this is posted at 10:11 a.m. yesterday. And then yesterday again at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Oh, sorry, that's not the right one. There's 60,000 housing. Where's the 60,000 housing? That's frustrating. I had another one and I thought it was, okay, I'll show you with Mark Carney's just timeline. It was 60,000 cars and then 60,000 housing. And I thought that was strange. And I thought there would be a third 60,000 something or other. I'm sorry, I'm scrolling here. Big news, Canada. Oh yeah, here it is. Canada's new government is making a big updates in infrastructure that will enable more than 60,000 new homes to be built and then 60,000 jobs. And I thought, where's the next 60,000? There's got to be one more 60,000, right, to complete the set. So anyway, I've just found it strange and it perked up my red flags, right? Here is Trump and he's terminating the canola issue. Eric says, breaking, President Trump is now considering terminating business across multiple industries with China because of their hostile economic activities. We are considering terminating business with China having to do with cooking oil and other elements of trade as retribution. As an example, we can easily produce cooking oil ourselves. We don't need to purchase it from China. Don't play that game with Trump, China. So here's Trump. This is a Truth Social, and he says, I believe China is purposefully not buying our soybeans and causing difficulty for our soybean farmers is an economically hostile act. We're considering terminating a business with China having to do with cooking oil and other elements of trade as retribution. As an example, we can easily produce produce cooking oil ourselves. No need to purchase it from China. So Trump says, we've got cooking oil. We can make cooking oil. We'll have all American cooking oil at the wazoo, right? Except it's, from what I understand, and the food professor is pushing back on this. I think I've got something later in the show talking about this. Oh yeah, food right there. Food professor is pushing back on this. He says, once heralded as a made-in-Canada innovation that helped transform global diets, canola oil has recently become the scapegoat of a new nutritional panic. And I don't know, look into how they make canola oil into the oil that they make it into. And it's suspect, man. It's suspect as all get out. So it seems really, really strange. The seed oils and people's health, there are questions. And just look into how it's made. And if I'm incorrect, I'd love to be told how. Because, I mean, if cooking oil is healthy, if seed oils are healthy like that, then I'll use them. But if you can't back up they're healthy with a production that doesn't have all sorts of poison things and bleaches and all sorts of things in it, then I'm not going to believe you. I'm not going to believe. Don't look into this anymore, but just trust that it's healthy. I don't think so anymore, right? I just don't think so. Here's CTV News. This is economic hitman activity, and CTV News says Stellantis moving Jeep Compass production to Illinois after pausing Brampton, Ontario plant. So Stellantis was given a huge government subsidy to stay and build in Canada, and they were like, yeah, we're totally going to do that. And then all of the battery plants failed in Canada, costing us lots and lots of money that we're never going to get back, including the investment in Stellantis. And this is $300 million in grants, according to Table Salt. Table Salt says major breaking, more pain for Canada. Stellantis backtracks on commitment to resume production in Brampton despite $300 million in grants. Announces $13 billion investment in the USA, permanently moves production of Jeep Compass to Illinois, 3,000 jobs on the line. So Stellantis moving Jeep Compass production originally slated for Brampton to Illinois. Rick says, I believe Carney is an economic hitman. That's where the title of today's show came from. So yes, people say that, or some people are speculating that he was Trump's pick because Carney would be easier to manipulate or easier to get what Trump wanted, which is basically the auto industry. And so we're watching it go piece by piece back to the United States. Right Blend says Canada's, quote, new government is there for Canadian workers every step of the way, right to the bottom of the seafloor. This country is sinking, yes, and they're holding us down. They're holding us down there by their bad policies. Here's something that I didn't think I'd see again with the carbon tax being brought in, 10 years ago, etc. Gas at $101.9. Aaron says, I thought I was reading the sign wrong, but gas is actually 101.9 at a few competing stations in Southwest Calgary. Only needed a half tank, but I absolutely stopped and filled up. Quite the drop in price from a few short weeks ago. So that's pretty interesting if you ask me, right? Like that's wild and crazy, right? $1. Road trips are back on the menu, folks. Like, holy cow. What's that per gallon? Like if it was in the US, that'd be cheap, right? $3 gallon, $3.60. Danielle Smith, I'm totally guesstimating there. I don't have any basis for comparing 101 to $3 a gallon. I have no idea. Anyway, Danielle Smith is congratulating the Newfoundland Premier. She says, congratulations to fellow Conservative Premier-elect Tony Wakeham in Newfoundland and his team on their victory tonight in Newfoundland and Labrador. I look forward to working together to strengthen our provinces and build a stronger nation. So that's Danielle Smith. And here's Pierre Poilievre. He says, big news from the Rock. Congratulations to Premier Designate Tony Wakeham and the newly elected Progressive Conservative government in Newfoundland and Labrador. Can't wait to work with you to boost take-home pay, cut inflation and taxes, and unlock oil output, protect firearms owners, and lock up criminals for a safe and affordable life for everyone on the Rock. Sure, maybe. I find it interesting how progressive has been shoehorned into this conservative name. Why do we need to be progressive? What are you conservating if you're progressive? If you're a progressive conservative, what are you conserving exactly? Be very specific, please. Because if you've got your hair dyed orange, I'm really not interested. Anyway, I'm sure this conservative government is going to be really, really conservative, and they're definitely going to make sure SOGI isn't in the school boards, unlike Ontario's conservative government. Well. Anyway, let's move on to free speech. And yeah, we've got time, 5 minutes. Wonderful. Mark Carney is apparently not allowing the parliamentary press gallery access in Egypt. And Canada Proud is reporting on this. The parliamentary press gallery is outraged that Mark Carney shut the press out again during his trip to Egypt. And I'm not surprised by this behavior, but Mark Carney, when he does talk to the press, isn't limited by the truth. He will make up fanciful stories. He'll say whatever he wants, right? Look inside yourself, Rosemary. So it's one of those things where it doesn't matter if we listen to Mark Carney. He won't tell us the truth anyway. Here is Leslyn Lewis, and she's making an impassioned speech against Bill C-8. She says, when we read Bill C-8 and look at what it actually says, well, I'll let her say it. I don't need to say it and then have her say it. Here we go.
We must take the bill at face value. We must rely on what the text explicitly sets out in the law. Otherwise, the law intended to protect telecommunications infrastructure could easily be weaponized by any government against ordinary citizens. Citizens most at risk are people like me, those who publicly and loudly express dissent, challenge orthodoxy, or raise uncomfortable truths. These citizens most active in civil society are most at risk of being cut off, penalized, and isolated without ever knowing why. For these reasons, Bill C-8 undermines the principles of fundamental justice in the Charter as it stands. Security in this context can be a pretext for control, while transparency and liberty are sacrificed.
She's not wrong. And it's quite an articulate argument. I like it. I'm glad that the Conservatives are talking about it. They did effectively get Bill C-2, certain things pushed out of it, so maybe that's good. But way back in September 29th, which again isn't that long ago, but it's long ago, Matt Strauss was talking about C-8, and he says, if you have not yet read the joint letter denouncing Bill C-8, I urge you to do so now. It is signed by several civil society groups representing dozens of expert lawyers. Bill C-8 terminates essential services, undermines privacy, lacks guardrails to prevent abuse, has no justification. And there's an update yesterday. He says, oh no. Well, this was on the 29th too. I thought this was people were sharing this yesterday. I thought this was an update from him yesterday. One of the groups who signed the letter has put together a petition to fix it. I urge you to sign it. He says, I don't necessarily believe in signing petitions. I haven't seen one petition where the government has said, oh, right, good point. Yeah, we're going to stop that. I've never seen that happen. I've never seen the government say, with the digital ID thing in Britain, it was hugely successful. They got a whole bunch of people, 2 million people, I think, were submitting this thing or submitted themselves to this list. And the government responded by saying, we will implement a digital ID. It's going to happen. Yes, that's happening. So, okay, like what? So Mark says, Pierre Poilievre, they couldn't beat Charlie Kirk in a debate, so they killed him yesterday. Charlie Kirk got the Presidential Medal of Honor. I don't have footage of that. But yesterday, or recently, I guess, Poilievre was asked about Charlie Kirk, and he talks at length about Charlie Kirk. Mark Nixon turns it into talking about Bill C-2, C-8, and C-9. He says, now the Liberals want to have Bill C-2 to spy on you, Bill C-8 to delete you, and Bill C-9 to jail you. This is how free nations fall. Well, when your elections are rigged and both parties who are supposed to represent the people in the House of Commons neither of them represent the people. They all represent globalist puppet masters. I think we've already had the fall of the nation, right? We've been a tax farm for a while. I think that's been the case for a while. We just don't understand the game we're in, I think personally. And we get led round and round and round and round. And we get no closer to understanding the game that we're actually in. So I hope I'm wrong about that. This is just Poilievre talking about Charlie Kirk. And I think we can just carry on. So we're just going to carry on. Here is Vesper. He says, this is Poilievre talking about Christians being the number one group that are victims of hate-based violence. And This is recent, so we'll listen to this, and then I got to kill the stream. Here we go.
Let's recap where we are. 100 churches have been burned. You hear almost nothing from the Liberal government about this. Christians may be the number one group that is victims of hate-based violence. But of course, it's not politically correct to say that. 100 terrorist attacks against Canadian churches. This anti-Christian hate has got to stop. We've seen with this Liberal government is the number of things they've done to allow this. One, they've separated people into groups. Their ideology seeks to identity politics divides one group against another, and then we're surprised when that leads to violence. Two, the Liberals have reduced criminal penalties for arson, so people are not afraid to get caught burning things down anymore. Let's recap where we are. 100 churches.
The government is in the process of burning down the country, and nobody seems to mind, and it seems very, very concerning, if you ask me. Police on Guard for Thee are sharing a documentary that is about, or not a documentary, excuse me, a conversation between Derek Sloan, Helen Gress, and one other person. And I put it on CanadaReport.co. I'm interested in watching the whole thing. I haven't watched it yet, but I'm interested in it. I'm going to watch it while I wash the dishes today, I think. And Police on Guard for Thee says, watch the interview hosted by Derek Sloan with Detective Gress and her lawyer, Bathsheba Vanderberg. I think that's how you say that. Detective Gress, who was part of the SACA, Sexual Assault Child Abuse Unit, uncovered alarming reports from mothers regarding the sudden deaths of their newborns, with autopsies indicating potentially troubling conditions. Following her inquiries into additional autopsy reports, she faced suspension without pay, and in March of 25, she was found guilty of discreditable conduct under the Police Service Act. The decision is chilling, stating, quote, police officers are not allowed to investigate without permission from their executive when looking into criminal liability of public officials. Now that to me as a lawyer, as someone who has worked in the rule of law in the world is around the world is terrifying. The message that this decision delivers to Canadians is that police officers are not allowed to investigate our government for criminal liability. That means the government is above the law, and that the police are being directed by the government instead of being operationally independent to ensure that we have rule of law in Canada. I feel that. I feel that that's true. Recent confirmations from the FDA have highlighted the link between the COVID vaccine and myocarditis in children and young adults. This, of course, is only the tip of the iceberg with respect to the dangers of this so-called vaccine. Right. So these things are happening and people are being silenced, and then jobs are being threatened and worse. And it just seems very, very concerning is not the right word, but orchestrated. And yes, concerning, of course. Disclosed TV is reporting Russian MFA spokesperson Zakharova says Moscow. Imagine if I nailed that one. I mean, I didn't, but imagine if I did. Says Moscow to host forum with experts on fake news. Western media, mainstream media, is actively using these fakes to carry out disinformation campaigns aimed at our country. In particular, Europe is whipping up a drone hysteria. So the drone hysteria, people are worried that drone swarms are going to become ubiquitous around populated areas, and people are going to be harmed, kind of like flying around landmines, right? Like basically, I think is one of the fears of this drone thing. And if that happens, I would imagine that governments would act fairly quickly, right? Like if your population, who previously could move about and travel from city to city and go to the grocery store without being blown up indiscriminately by drones, and then all of a sudden that changed, you would have countermeasures in place soon. You would say, we need to test this, we need to roll this out, have neighborhoods with drone detection, and I mean there's already AI guns that can identify drones and take them out with not lasers or anything like that, but old-fashioned bullets, right? And I've seen these things operating in people's like basements. People have put these things together with Raspberry Pis, for crying out loud. Do you think the government wouldn't be able to do this? I think that the government would definitely be able to do this. Maybe this is a burgeoning industry we should be getting into. Anybody want to have drone countermeasures for your house? Build it at home. Yay. Oh, this is an interesting story. This is a teacher in Alberta. Okay, we'll do this one. Oh my gosh, it's already long. This is a teacher in Alberta, and this is what's going on in the schools. And streaming kids, pulling kids who are disruptive out of classrooms and promising to those other kids, you will not be disrupted in your day is super important. You can't have an education system that prioritizes kids who disrupt the learning of all of the other children in the class. You can't do that. It doesn't work. Imagine having, you wouldn't get any work done if you had to live the way these kids go to school. It's insane. And this is across Canada. We've done this to the kids, and you should not tolerate it. I've already told my kids, if there's ever a situation in the class where you feel unsafe, get up and leave. Just walk out. Don't wait for permission. Don't add to any problems or anything like that. Tell the teacher you're leaving and leave. Don't ask, just leave. And anyway, here's National Post. David Rink says, I'm an Albertan teacher. I'm on strike to save our schools, not line my pockets. He says, he's got a little preamble, but he says, a few years ago, I had a class of 29 grade 5 students, including 2 who experienced significant behavioral challenges. For nearly half the year, we evacuated the classroom at least once a day, if not twice. There was no funding for an educational assistant to support either of those students. I've also had a class of 27 grade 5 students with 2 who could not read, write, or work independently, 2 who were continually disruptive, and 6 who performed below grade level. With no funding for an EA, my time and attention was disproportionately split. Most recently, I had a class of 28 grade 5 students, including 3 at pre-kindergarten levels who could only learn with continuous one-to-one support, and 2 who were subject to frequent outbursts and required one-to-one adult support to help them regulate their emotions. That's the job that I used to do. And it's not fair to throw kids like that into a regular classroom. Of the remaining 23, half were working below grade level. They deserved my full attention and instructional expertise, but without properly funded support, there just wasn't enough of me to go around. Every year, I teach several kids who need enhanced support in the classroom and aren't getting it. Every year, there are more students arriving in grade 5 who are already multiple years behind in their learning, having come up through the overcrowded, unsupported classrooms in which teachers' time and attention are split too many ways. In negotiating for a new contract, the government has said that it does not know what teachers want and doesn't think teachers are clear about what they want, so let me be clear about what I want. For the sake of our children and the future success of the province, I want the government to fund public schools appropriately. Our kids deserve classes with the student-teacher ratio aligns with recommendations of the 2003 blah, blah, blah. I don't care about any of that. The thing that needs to happen, if this is what they're asking for, ratios aren't going to fix it. Ratios aren't going to fix it. The only way to fix it is to remove those kids. If you identify yourself as somebody who's being counterproductive to the learning in this classroom, you are gone from this classroom, and you will go into remedial learning until you can figure out how to exist in a regular classroom. Sorry about your luck, but that's just how it is. You have to be this tall to ride. Here's the alphabet. Can you say it? If you can't say the alphabet, you're going to the remedial room until you can. And then we're going to get you reading. And then we're going to get you doing basic math. You can't do that by kowtowing to these behavioral kids by giving each one an adult. And let me tell you, most of the adults were not worth their salt. Most of the kids had those adults wrapped around their little finger. The adults think, the adults think that the performance of the child in the class is reflective on how good they are as an EA. And I always told the kid, if I was working with the kid or the EA, don't do the kid's work. Their work needs to be their work. You're just there to facilitate it. If they're not going to do the work, then they should fail. You don't do the work. But the EAs would do the work. And so it was a very, very interesting situation because those kids would manipulate the EAs, and they would have a situation where it would almost be like, if you give me a treat, I'll behave for this quarter. And not all EAs were like this, but there were a lot who were like this, to go along to get along. And people would train EAs to do this. And it was framed as a reward system, which a lazy reward system maybe. Sure, bribery works, but you have to fade the reward away and the behavior is supposed to stay, right? You're supposed to fade. We'll give you this reward for, the first couple of times, but then we expect you to do that behavior and this behavior in addition to that behavior, maybe with a new reward, but no reward for that anymore. But the reward would just stay. Anyway, they would be terrible. And the schools are not fixing the core problem with ratios because all of these disruptive kids are the ones who get all the attention, and the kids who actually need it, the kids who are trying to learn the concepts, are ignored because the teacher is too busy doing bullshit reward systems with EAs who don't know what they're doing. I'm sorry, it's just the reality of the situation. And not all EAs are like that. It's not every single one, right? I've known some wonderful EAs. I've known some wonderful teachers. I've known some wonderful youth care workers. But by and large, the people who come out of who don't have practical experience in this field before actually getting into the schooling about it, if they just go from high school and wanting to work with kids and they go become youth care workers or EAs, they'll come out with a very cracked idea of what it is to work with kids. If you have if you have experience with it before going into the schooling, then you have a better idea of what it is to work with kids. But the kids coming out of the school who don't know, almost useless, like most of the time useless. And they're the ones who will do the lazy reward system that doesn't have a fade. And they're the ones who will just pay off the kid and not look like they're actually doing anything productive with the kid, because the kid's not engaged and they're not engaged. And so anyway, I digress. I don't mean to go off, but the schooling system is made worse because of bad policies, and the parents can't even access the ministers in charge of this. And the ministers don't know what the hell they're talking about. They don't know what they're doing, honestly. So I digress. Thanks for watching, everybody, on this stream. This has already been longer than I intended. You can get the whole show over at canadapoly.com. And if not, that's okay. We will catch you tomorrow. And for everybody else, we will carry on.